From Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown, this is Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. TicketBash.com, where memories are made affordable and where you'll never pay a service fee. Sports Bash is also presented by the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund, a group of like-minded individuals trying to raise awareness to our future generations of all possibilities of success other than just college. For more information, visit www.lookwhomadeit.org. Sports Bash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Every customer is considered family at the Embassy Diner. Mention Sports Bash, get a free dessert with your meal. And by the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. For more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. Stay tuned later in the show. Find out more about the 5th annual Marty Lyons Foundation NFL Draft Party coming up on April 24th. Well, hi again, everyone. I'm Peter Schwartz. Happy Thursday. 516-465-3990 is the number to call. Make sure you're subscribing to Govs Comedy Club Podcast and Sports Bash Media on YouTube and following along on Facebook and Instagram. Also follow Sports Bash Media on X, Instagram, and Facebook. Coming up on the show, I'll be joined by John Heyman from the New York Post and MLB Network. We'll talk a little baseball with him. We're also going to play Stump the Wiz later on in the show, and today it is a special WrestleMania edition of Stump the Wiz coming up later on in the program. I've just made Wiz nervous because he knows nothing about professional wrestling, but I think it's a question he could, by some means of elimination, get the answer to. We'll find out a little bit later on. We'll also have This Week in Sports History. On the subject of WrestleMania, you see I'm wearing a WrestleMania t-shirt, Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior from WrestleMania 6 in Toronto. And with WrestleMania coming up this weekend, Saturday and Sunday in Las Vegas, WrestleMania 41, I wanted to talk about WrestleMania this weekend. So I could think of no better person than a gentleman who I've gotten to know after the last few months. I hired him as my director of operations with the New York Dragons Arena football team. He is a now retired pro wrestler, but still owns a piece of a pro wrestling independent promotion. We welcome to Sports Bash the very, very handsome Sean Wachter.
Oh, Peter, it's always a pleasher, but I really think...
I bet you've never had an introduction like that before.
No, but I do think after that you kind of need to get your glasses checked a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
brand new glasses.
I don't know if it's the glare off the top of my head, reflecting off the glare off the top of your head, or reflecting off the glare off the top of Tony's head.
Well, whatever. But we welcome you to the beautiful studios here at Governor's Comedy Club.
Thank you so kindly for having me. Obviously, being your director of operation is an absolute pleasure and a dream job. And, you know, obviously I wear another hat by being a co-owner and chief business officer of New York Wrestling Connection.
And we are going to talk about the Dragons later in the show in the last segment, because we've got some things to talk about when it comes to what we're doing with the New York Dragons. But to start out with, in this opening segment, I said, I got to get somebody on to talk about WrestleMania 41, and we've been talking about it on and off, so I figured, let's get Sean come in, because you don't want me talking about it just myself for 20 minutes. Let's bring Sean in. And I'll start with a general question. From where WrestleMania started in 1985 at Madison Square Garden, WrestleMania, it was just WrestleMania. People call it WrestleMania 1. It was just WrestleMania. From where it started to where it is now, 40 years later, is just... And Vince McMahon still has a lot to do with it, but obviously he's not involved anymore. Now it's the Paul Levesque, Triple H era. But as yourself growing up a wrestling fan and becoming a pro wrestler and now owning a promotion, your thoughts on how WrestleMania has evolved over the 4 decades?
Well, I think WrestleMania is something that transcends both sports and entertainment, in the aspect that it's almost like a sports marketing case study.
Yeah.
Where it's essentially Vince McMahon had to spend money to make money. Originally, WrestleMania, everyone thinks, is the first pay-per-view, which is actually incorrect. It was still closed-circuit television, but to get the first WrestleMania off the ground, Vince McMahon literally had to mortgage his home and put everything up that he had.
He bet on himself. He bet on himself.
He bet on himself, like I said, though, but he spent money to make money. He put it all up front, And as the story goes, as the reports were coming in from the different time zones and different locations where they had the closed circuit, they literally were sitting there holding their breath, waiting to see if they hit the break-even point. And I think before halfway getting through the financials, they realized, wow, we did it. Yeah. Not only did we break even, but we still have plenty to go. And it turned into the success that it is today. But as you could see, it pretty much evolved. And that's another thing. You need to evolve or die. And to keep it from getting stale, it went from being at Madison Square Garden, the mecca of sports entertainment, where I even myself have had the privilege to perform, to going into now football stadiums, housing 2 nights instead of one. Right. So it's truly...
And the 2-night thing started as a result of COVID, because they had it in Tampa Bay and they didn't want to put so many people in the stadium on one night. So that's how the whole 2-night thing started. And they said, wow, people are going to come on 2 nights. Let's just make it 2 nights.
It did well for them. It's a model that New Japan Pro Wrestling uses for one of their big events. And I think it's a testament how wrestling evolved from being kind of like almost like a dirty word in regards to sports to now it's on Netflix. There's mainstream brands that are using partnerships with wrestling now to further both sides of the fence here, so to speak.
And if you remember, people remember, like the first few WrestleManias, they felt the need to bring in superstars, like entertainers. Like, so I remember the first one, Liberace and Billy Martin and Muhammad Ali were at the first WrestleMania. And I think in ensuing WrestleManias, you had like Bob Uecker was there at one of them. And they felt the need to combine the wrestling and the entertainment worlds together. And it's gotten to the point now where the wrestlers are the superstars. They don't need to bring in now. They still do sometimes have, other celebrities make a cameo appearance, but they don't need to do that anymore because these wrestlers have become larger than life characters, larger than life heroes to a lot of people, and they don't need to bring in the celebrities anymore.
No, the wrestlers themselves now. Look at the Rock, John Cena, Dave Bautista, CM Punk, just for example, Cody Rhodes. We're going into the age that now wrestling is not only mainstream, but it's at the top of the mountain now. Again, wrestling is the perfect sports marketing case study where these gentlemen, obviously they do have a machine behind them, but they're still building brands, and they're building them to the point now where it's like you could have a Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and you can have a John Cena be your main guest, where
Triple H was on last week.
Yeah, whereas 10 years ago you'd have to have a movie star or what they considered a relevant sports star. Right. But now wrestling is in that same conversation.
To this day, I am so pissed at myself. First WrestleMania, I'm at Ticket Center, whatever they call it, Ticket World. It was the precursor to Ticketmaster. It was at an area in the old Times Square store, which is now Home Depot in Levittown. And I went with a friend of mine to go get tickets for the first WrestleMania. I was all excited to go to the first WrestleMania. And we get up there, and there were tickets available in the 400 level of the Garden. And I'm ready to I got my money for my ticket, and we're going to pay. And my friend had cold feet. And he's like, I don't know if I want to go. And I'm like, I had enough money to buy 2 tickets. And I made the decision not to buy them because I didn't know if my brother wanted to go with me or not. And I didn't buy them. And, of course, it sold out. And I wound up not getting to go. I wound up going with my brother to watch it on closed circuit at Nassau Coliseum. But to this day, I'm pissed at myself because I could have been at the first WrestleMania if I had just said, you know what, I'll buy the 2 tickets and somebody will go with me, whether it's my brother or someone will go. And I should have done it. And I feel terrible about it to this day.
It's one of those things. I was fortunate enough to go to WrestleMania 10 with my father.
I was at WrestleMania 10 as well, at the Garden.
At the Garden.
I was Mecca. At 10 and 15. I was at the one in Philadelphia when Stone Cold beat The Rock at the end.
Oh, that again, those are 15 is one of those hallmark WrestleManias. It stands out because it almost signifies part of a shift in the industry and in pop culture as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean Wachter, he's my director of operations with the New York Dragons, but he is also heavily involved in pro wrestling. He's part owner of an independent wrestling organization, New York Wrestling Connection. And he's a former pro wrestler, just recently retired. I can't imagine, The Rock talks about it all the time. and you see now he's come back a little bit as the final boss and as a member of the board of directors. And Triple H has talked about this in interviews where, he's talked to The Rock about how you don't get the rush making a mega $1 million movie as these guys get or girls, also women, when they walk down the ramp and go to the ring and perform in the ring. And you see now The Rock, he's one of his new things as the final boss was when he comes out. I think he even did this before he turned heel, where he would like roll up, his sleeve would be up here, and he would just he would like smack his hand because you can see the goosebumps on his hands when he's coming out. So for you, and you could speak to this as a former pro wrestler and someone still involved, is there anything that you can think of that could be quite like the rush that you get in being a professional wrestler?
I had the privilege of playing football for 15 years on the high school level, collegiate level, and the professional level through the Arena Football League. I had the pleasure of playing high school lacrosse and collegiate lacrosse. I'll tell you, standing behind that curtain, waiting for your music to hit, hearing the reaction from the crowd, no matter if it's a couple hundred or a couple of thousand, which I've had the privilege of performing in front of both types of crowds, it trumps any experience I've had, because it's just, you get yourself in the same mindset. You get ready, and it's just, Triple H even spoke about it, because people asked, like, you do this part of your entrance where you come out and you just kind of pause, and he looks all, looming and everything like that. And he said, I did that because Killer Kowalski, who trained Triple H, had said, you never know when it's going to end.
Right.
So take a moment and drink it in and enjoy it, because it's like The Rock says, you take that energy and you bottle it up. Yeah. You wish you could. And you know what? When it does end, unfortunately, my career had to come to an end due to concussions and some other health issues I have. But man, that feeling, it can't be replicated.
Well, until you walk out onto the field opening night at Nassau Coliseum on June 14th for the Dragons' first game back.
We'll get into that later, I'm sure. But, that will be a moment that I think Peter and I may have to go, I'm not crying. You're crying. No, you're not. We're going to have to step aside,
I think my wife, Cheryl, and your wife, Cindy, will know to bring some packages of Kleenex.
We'll have our shoes broken for many of years after that.
So let's get into WrestleMania 41, because there's been so many unbelievable storylines that have been played out in months. And actually, the long-term storytelling of what we're going to see this weekend is so well done by WWE, and that's a term that maybe people don't know about, wrestling now, especially with Triple H taking over creative control, is the long-term storytelling. Like, things are happening now that the seeds were planted maybe even a year ago at the end of WrestleMania 40. And the big match, obviously, this weekend is Cody Rhodes against John Cena for the WWE Championship. John Cena's retiring. But the big story is that he turned heel when Cody Rhodes turned down The Rock's offer of being with him. John Cena turns heel in the ring, attacks Cody Rhodes, and now it's going to be John Cena going for what would be a record 17th championship on Sunday night in the main event. What are your thoughts on how this storyline has played out and the way that they've set everything up for this weekend?
I think it's brilliant. I understand why they didn't turn John Cena heel maybe 5-10 years ago. And again, it's sports business. It's sports marketing. You need to look at you need to look beyond the product that's in the ring. You need to look at the numbers. And the numbers dictated that he was selling an ungodly amount of merchandise. And, something like that is what can make or break a company. And when you have a publicly traded company, obviously your balance sheet needs to look impeccable.
Right.
You need to have nice profit margins. You need to be having a nice net income. And things like merchandise go far beyond ticket sales. So as much as the wrestling fans might have been like, we're getting tired of this, we want to see something different, the numbers at the merchandise table were dictating differently.
Right. What do you think was the bigger heel turn? Was it John Cena? And you saw the social media reaction that night when he turned heel. Kids, he's done more Make-A-Wish wishes than anybody. He has been one of the biggest baby faces in the history of pro wrestling. Kids love him. He's been an incredible ambassador for the business. and you saw the reaction. People were stunned.
Yep.
Even with all the discussion in recent years, maybe John Cena will turn heel. People were legitimately stunned. Kids were crying. I mean, it was an unbelievable thing. In your mind, what was the bigger, stunning, shocking heel turn? Was it John Cena or was it Hulk Hogan when he was the third man and it led to the NWO being formed in the old WCW?
I think with Hogan's turn, that was for, I guess, my generation, your generation. Yeah. That was done quite well. I think with something like this, though, it's apples and oranges. Yeah. It really is. I think the Cena heel turn, the crowd reaction was actually almost better because as a wrestler in the ring, there's one thing you don't want to hear, and that's silence.
Right.
But in this case, the silence was good because it wasn't, oh, this is a terrible, get this out of the ring.
People
silence.
Were stunned. They didn't know what to do.
It was stunned. And that is when you look out at that crowd and you could see that jaw on the ground reaction, you just know, okay, I have him right in the palm of my hand.
And it was, when Hogan turned heel, I remember Mean Gene Okerlund, who was at WCW at the time, gets in the middle of the ring, and they're throwing all this stuff. He's trying to interview Hulk Hogan. And he's like, he played that so beautifully. Like, I have been with you for all these years. Never in my dreams did I ever think that you would represent yourself with these people over here. And Mean Gene actually got hurt. Something hit him in the ring. I don't know if it was a bottle or a cup or whatever.
Yeah, that's dangerous. And any level of professional wrestling, to throw something into the ring, no, we can't be doing that.
So let's talk about Cody versus Cena. And, Cody has been a great champion so far since he beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 last year in Philadelphia. The feeling, and people talk about feelings and expectations and what should happen, what's best for the business. The expectation is that John Cena is going to win, and I would think John Cena is probably going to have some assistance from the final boss. I would think that could be what happens. But when you look at this, and obviously it would be controversial because Ric Flair currently is tied with John Cena for the most championships. This would put Cena in a class of his own. How do you see this match unfolding?
I think that being John Cena only turned heel back this past February with the Elimination Chamber, I don't think that we have long enough of a runway to have a clean, decisive ending. I think this is something, the kids say, let them cook. Well, this is still marinating.
Right.
So I have a feeling there will be some sort of shenanigans. Yeah. But
that's what you call it, huh?
Yeah, shenanigans, some sort of tomfoolery, some other choice words perhaps. But I have a feeling that Cena walks out of that one with his 17th world champion. Now, that's not to say that, the following month at Backlash or something like that, we may see a rematch of that, but I definitely don't see this being a clear-cut, clean ending.
Let me touch on one more match, and we'll get to the other ones later on because John Heyman's going to join me in a little bit to talk a little baseball. But the triple threat match, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins. So to set this up, Roman Reigns' wise man is Paul Heyman. When CM Punk was originally in WWE, he was managed by Paul Heyman. And now you've got Seth Rollins in the middle of this. Of course, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns have a history from being in the Shield years ago. So now, as the favor that was promised to CM Punk, Paul Heyman is going to be in CM Punk's corner, and Roman Reigns is not happy about it, shoved him down to the mat the other night. This has intrigue all over. This is one of, I think, to me, the setup for this match is as good as anything WWE has done in recent years. And again, the expectation, people are talking about this online, is that not only is Paul Heyman going to turn aside Roman Reigns, but the idea is that he's going to turn aside CM Punk and align himself with Seth Rollins.
I could definitely see that happening. And for some reason, there's just something that pops into my head. And I can't say who, not that I have some sort of inside information, but it's just this idea. I have a feeling that Mr. Heyman is going to do Seth Rollins a favor. But I have a feeling there's also going to probably be the debut of another Paul Heyman guy.
Wow.
That's my thoughts.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll get back to that in a little bit. and we'll talk about the Dragons. We have a lot more to do, Stump the Wiz. But when we come back here on the show, I'm going to be joined by Jon Heyman from the New York Post at MLB Network. We'll talk some Yankees, some Mets. We'll go around Major League Baseball. That's coming up when we come back right after this. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
Okay.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage.
In 1982, the Marty Lyons Foundation began with a single heartfelt mission: to bring moments of joy and hope to critically ill children by granting wishes that make their dreams come true. Since that day, we have touched the lives of over 8,500 families, raising over $43 million to grant wishes that offer a beacon of light in their darkest times. These precious wishes cost an average of $6,700 each, and your support is crucial to our mission. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. And with 76 cents of every dollar going directly to supporting our families, you can rest assured your support truly changes lives. The Marty Lyons Foundation operates 11 chapters in 14 states now, working tirelessly to reach as many children as we can. This dedication goes hand in hand with our commitment to transparency and accountability, earning us top ratings on Charity Navigator, Great Nonprofits, and Candid, which underscores our dedication to those we serve. The Marty Lyons Foundation grants wishes to children ages 3 to 17. And what really makes this foundation so special is our willingness to grant not only a first wish, but also consider a second wish to a child who continues to battle a life-threatening illness. We stand by these children, offering them hope and strength through the power of dreams, giving our children the courage to wish for more.
What's your purpose in life? Is your purpose in life to live in the big house and drive the nice car? No. Your purpose in this life is to make it a little bit better for those that follow and realize that we live for today to see a better tomorrow.
Visit MartyLyonsFoundation.org to learn more and get involved.
Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by Ticketbash.com. I'm Peter Schwartz. This segment of Sports Bash is presented by the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund, a group of like-minded individuals trying to raise awareness to our future generations of all possibilities of success other than just college. For more information, visit www.lookwhomadeit.org. Well, the 2025 Major League Baseball season is a few weeks underway, and lots to talk about the Yankees and the Mets and other things going on in Major League Baseball. Nobody better to talk about everything going on in Major League Baseball than the outstanding writer and columnist for the New York Post and also analyst for MLB Network, Jon Heyman. He joins me here on Sports Bash. Jon, it's Peter. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Peter? It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm doing great, and thank you for taking part of your Thursday out to talk a little baseball. Let me start with the Yankees first, because obviously, I mean, they go to the World Series last year. They lose Juan Soto to the Mets, and they've got a whole bunch of injuries going on. Garrett Cole's out for the season, and the Yankees are trying to, and also Giancarlo Stanton is still out. Luis Gil is out. The Yankees are trying to meander their way through the beginning part of the season here, and they just come off of sweeping the Royals. Your thoughts on where the Yankees are now, and what would be their apex this season in your mind, the way that they're constructed?
Well, I think they've done really well under the circumstances of losing their top pitcher in Cole and probably their number 3 pitcher in Gil, won Rookie of the Year last year, and certainly had other injuries. You mentioned Stanton. LeMahieu's been out as well. I mean, they had a spring from hell, and here they are with tied for the best record in the American League. So I think they're doing well under the circumstances. Certainly the offense has been really good. Judge has been the best hitter in baseball. 409, incredible batting average, along with the 7 home runs. Really amazing, but he's had a lot of help. Rice has been terrific. Grisham's been terrific. Goldschmidt, a lot of guys have been really good. A lot of guys have really stepped up. Their offense has been the best in the league, and that's gone a long way toward making up for all of the pitching injuries that they do have. So I think that they've done well. Schmidt is now back. He will presumably be back in 5 or 6 weeks. That will be a big benefit for the team, and I think they're in pretty good position considering the injuries that they had, considering that they are in the American League, which I think is by far the weaker league right now. I think they're doing okay.
It's amazing when people, talk about the Yankees and manager Aaron Boone over the years is almost a mix of people who defend Aaron Boone as a manager, and there are some people who don't like him. And I'm looking at what the Yankees have done here early, especially even if you go back to last year, getting to the World Series, and what he's been able to do to keep this team afloat and make them, a winning team again this season. Does Aaron Boone, in your mind, not get enough credit for being a good manager?
Well, I'll say this. He's certainly over-criticized being in New York and being a manager of a team that, obviously haven't won the World Series yet with him. They did get to the World Series, which is a great achievement last year. I get it. New York is a tough town, and he hears a lot of negativity that comes with the territory. He's very good at absorbing that. I mean, I think he's great in the clubhouse. He's great publicly, very good with the media. The players love him. I mean, you hear always that there's always going to be 5 players who hate the manager. I don't know who those 5 players are. I'm not sure there are 5 players or even 1 or 2 players, and that's not easy. I think he is great in terms of the clubhouse and setting the right tone for the team. If you're talking about strategy, everybody's got their own opinion on it. I'd probably name 5 or 6 managers I think are really savants in terms of strategy. Alex Cora, we've got on the Post podcast this week. And I think Dave Roberts is, even though he also hears a lot of criticism, and his record is even better than Boone's. But I think there are 5 or 6 managers, probably put Francona in there as well.
Yeah.
Bochy, incredible. But I think he's fine in terms of strategy. That's not why they haven't won the World Series. I think he's outstanding with the clubhouse, and that's probably the more important thing at this point.
John, you touched on Ben Rice, who's off to a great start for the Yankees, and I kind of joked about this on the show the other day, but things have a way of working out. The Yankees lose Juan Soto, and Yankee fans are going crazy. What do they do with those Juan Soto jerseys that they bought last year? And Ben Rice takes over number 22, and he's off to the start that he has, and now those Yankee fans can say, "Oh, I got the Ben Rice jersey now. I don't have to go out and get another jersey. I can keep the 22." Can you expand a little bit on the phenomenon that has been Ben Rice a little bit so far this year?
Yeah, amazing job. A number 9th round pick, which normally you got to be a pretty darn good college player to be a 9th, or high school player to be a 9th round pick, but they don't usually become stars at the major league level. He looked just so great in spring training. I did a story on him late in spring. It looked really good, but, looking good in spring training and the season, 2 different things. He's basically taken the place of Giancarlo Stanton until he comes back. I mean, I'm sure they'll find spot for Rice, figure it out somehow.
Yeah.
Although they have a good catcher and they have a good first baseman, they'll find room for him. But I mean, he's not afraid of pressure. He's got Soto's number, and he's got Giancarlo Stanton's spot in the lineup. So he's doing great. I mean, Dartmouth kid. Not many Dartmouth kids make it in the major leagues.
Yeah.
From little tiny Cohasset, Massachusetts, kind of a pretty ritzy community. They don't produce major leaguers in those kind of communities, right? We don't see a lot of major leaguers coming out of Hughes Harbor, do we?
No.
It's an unusual background. I got to give the guy credit.
Yeah, he's off to an awesome start. It's great to see John Heyman joining me here on Sports Bash. Let's switch over from the Bronx to Queens and talk about the Mets, and I guess the frustration really starting to set in on Juan Soto, and kind of continuing to talk about his year with the Yankees and struggling a little bit with the Mets here in the early going. And he made some comments yesterday about, well, last year I was batting in front of the best player in baseball. I know Met fans don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. Certain Met fans are already complaining all over social media. Your thoughts on Juan Soto so far, and the comments that he's made comparing what he's going through this year to what he went through last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think he is a terrific young man.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate his cooperation at the New York Post. He gave an interview with Mike Puma in which he made those comments about how it's different. That's the word he used. He didn't say worse, but he did say different, and explain why there are advantages to batting in front of the best hitter in baseball, as he called Aaron Judge. I would agree with him. He's the best hitter in baseball. I would agree it is different. No matter how great Pete Alonso is, and he is great, and no matter how great he's doing, and he's doing unbelievable, he's doing better than Soto and better than almost everybody else in the National League, and probably better than almost everybody but Judge. I personally, I think it's great that he's candid, great that he's cooperative. I would have held that for a little while. He was 15 games into a 15-year commitment. He did sign with a team that's paying him $765 million.
Yep.
To talk about your previous team, whether it's the team in your backyard here, 8 miles away, a little north and west in the Bronx. Yeah, I think he's got to just think about the Mets and talk about the Mets and say good things. Now, I feel a little guilty even criticizing him at all, since he is cooperative and he was honest. And I think there is validity to it. They have been pitching around him. They have been making it difficult on him. I think it's fair to say that the only players who really would provide true protection for a hitter as great as Soto probably are Judge and Ohtani. That said, he had the choice. The Yankees made a huge offer, $760 million, right?
Right.
He didn't choose the Mets over the $5 million. I don't believe it was about that. $5 million more. If he wanted to go to the Yankees, he could have told the Yankees, "Look, I'll go to you. Just match the Mets," and I'm sure they would have done it. And I give the Yankees credit for putting in an effort, huge effort to do it. They loved that combination, as did Soto, apparently, and did Judge. And, I hope he gets it out of his mind. A lot of players have started a lot worse than him, a lot of players with contracts, and he wasn't doing that bad. Nobody was really on him. And so I think he probably should have held his tongue in this case. That's just kind of the way I feel about it. But I mean, he's going to be great. You got 15 years. It's going to work out fine. We're not even, we're like 0.1% commitment, right? Let's not worry so much.
Yeah, I think he's just got to calm down and relax. And I think the Mets are going to get a lot of good service out of Juan Soto down the road. You mentioned Pete Alonso, and we've talked about him a lot on this show. And I always felt going through last year, ultimately Pete was going to wind up staying with the Mets. Now, I started to doubt it a little bit, when the playoffs started, but when he hit that home run against the Brewers, against Devin Williams, now a Yankee, to get the Mets into the next round, and I kind of felt the pendulum was starting to swing from Met fans and the organization that, okay, we have to figure out a way to get Pete back in pinstripes, and it certainly did work out, and he's off to a great start this year. It would have been weird seeing Pete Alonso playing in another uniform, right?
I think so, but he's got that opt-out, right? And we know he's certainly going to opt out, even if he's not having a career year. Right now he is, but there's a long way to go. But even if he has his typical year, he's not staying for a 1 year, $24 million. The qualifying offer is out. I think that's what really hindered his market. Certainly was a disappointing market for him. That qualifying offer is a bear. If you're not an ace like Fried or Burns, or an all-time great path like Soto, it affects everyone. It affected Snell, it affected Chapman, it certainly affected Montgomery, and it affected Pete. Now he won't have that this time, so I think he will be a free agent. And there are no guarantees in free agency, and it's certainly, I mean, you knew better than I did. It certainly looked at different times that the Mets were pivoting, they were setting deadlines, things weren't going that great. The saving grace was two things. There wasn't a great market. I think he was willing to go to Toronto, but the Met offer ultimately was better. They give him an opt-out after 1 year. I think that was big, and they give him $30 million in the first year, a little bit more. And the other thing is Steve Cohen, who was willing to do it. And you know what? He's not cheap. He's worth every penny at this point. But $30 million plus $33 million in Steve Cohen, so-called Steve Cohen luxury tax. That's $63 million.
Yeah,
they pay to bring him back. So let's all be happy that he's here. I hope everybody is. I think Soto is deep down. I get it. Nobody's Aaron Judge. I get that. But let's focus on the Mets at this point.
And when we talk about the Mets, you can't have a conversation about the Mets these days without talking about, Francisco Lindor, who has been so good for the Mets since he arrived in Flushing. I know there's been some tough starts to the seasons for him, but he's been everything that the Mets could have asked for. And now there's this idea that at some point that Lindor could be named the captain of the Mets. And I think that would be well-deserved. He's been so good, John. Can you sum up what he's meant for the Mets, and do you think he'll eventually, not that he'll have a C maybe on the jersey, but do you think he'll eventually be named the captain of the Mets?
From where I sit, he deserves it. I mean, I'm not in there all hours. They let us in for an hour, and we don't see everything that goes on. To me, he's a terrific individual. He'd be a terrific captain. He is captain of Team Puerto Rico. I think that was just named.
Yep.
I don't know why he has not been named captain yet. Obviously, David Wright was captain of the Mets, so they do have captains. I mean, is it because Brandon Nimmo, who is a great guy, absolutely a great guy, has been in there a little longer? And I doubt that that's it. I'm not really sure whether he's not the captain. It seems obvious, just like Judge should be the captain, and the Yankees did the right thing. And I don't know. It took part of his negotiation. I don't think Judge was swayed by captain or not captain with the Yankees, but there was part of the negotiation where he became captain. I'm really not sure why they haven't done it yet. The Mets have done a lot of great things with the statues and the honoring and the number retirements. I think they're really cognizant of what the Mets fans want. But this, to me, is something that it seems obvious to me, but maybe I'm not seeing everything behind the scenes, or maybe they're just don't want to hurt anybody else's feelings who's been there a long time and is a star. I mean, Brandon Nimmo's a star, and he's a terrific guy. Everybody loves him throughout the organization. He's not going to complain.
Right.
To me, I think you're right. I think he should be the captain.
I think there's no question. We have a couple minutes left with John Heyman from the New York Post and MLB Network here on Sports Bash. Let's go around Major League Baseball. Obviously, the Dodgers are the Dodgers. They're off to not a Dodgers start, but they're still, the world champs and high expectations. And obviously, they got Ohtani and that whole cast of characters. Your thoughts early on the Dodgers? Did anything else early on in the season strike you from what you've seen in the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are, on paper, the best team probably I've ever seen, and I've been doing this a long time. They are amazing. They've obviously had a lot of pitching injuries. Snell's still out. We don't have Ohtani pitching yet. Kershaw, it's going to be at least till June. Gonsolin's still recovering, apparently. So a lot of pitching injuries, but they have more depth than anyone. They have more talent than anyone. It's an amazing team. It just tells you how good the National League West is, that they're in third place. The Diamondbacks, who are also a great team, not on the Dodgers level, but they're in fourth place. Top three teams by record are in the National League West. It is a weird season in that it feels like the best five teams are in the National League, at least the way I look at it. That's the way it seems to me. We'll see how it plays out in the end, but the National League, at least at the top, looks a lot tougher than the American League. And I mean, look, the Yankees with all their injuries, they deserve a break. It's probably a break to be in the American League right now, right?
Yep.
The National League is a little bit better at the top. The top 7 or 8 teams are awfully good in the National League.
Yeah. I could speak personally, John, as a Yankee fan, as you know. I'll take that easy path to the World Series if that's there again this year.
Man. Nobody's going to look back if they win the World Series and say, oh, you were in the easier league. You beat the other league's team.
Yeah.
And you certainly can do it. They could have done it last year. I mean, look how close they came.
Yeah.
They had that 5-0 lead in Game 5, and what were the Dodgers going to do in Game 6? They had to use their 5th bullpen game So they even though it was a 5-game series, it was a little bit dicier for the Dodgers than most 5-game series. So they came pretty close last year, and you never know what happens in a short series.
Right.
I mean, they did have an opportunity there because the Dodgers were pretty short in the rotation. I don't know if that'll be the case this time, but Dodgers have more pitching injuries than anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
you talk about the pitching injuries. Dodgers have the most pitching injuries right now.
John, I wanted to talk about two teams in Major League Baseball who are playing in minor league stadiums right now. And we'll start with the Tampa Bay Rays, who are using the Yankees spring training home, George Steinbrenner Field, as their temporary home with the damage that was done to Tropicana Field. Obviously, it's not a long-term solution for the Rays. Where do we stand now? There's been some back and forth as to whether or not the Rays are going to get a new stadium there in Tampa or St. Pete. How do you look at the Rays situation right now?
Well, they had a deal they were very close to agreeing to, and we thought that they did have a deal, and apparently they had a way to opt out of it, and they did. And so the other owners are all right now pretty upset at Stu Sternberg, the owner of the Rays, for not finalizing a deal to get the new stadium and get everything done. I guess by his rights, he's not being sued or anything. So backing out of the deal, I guess, was allowed. But this has been going on for a decade at this point, right? I think there have been 4 times where they were close to getting a new stadium. And he, for some reason, and I don't know whether he's just trying to drive a hard bargain or he just doesn't love it there. I don't know. He was, looked upon by the people in Tampa as being kind of a carpetbagger because he lived in New York. He's now moved down there, so he seems a little more committed, but he's not been able to get a deal done. He hasn't ingratiated himself with the politicos in that Tampa Bay area, and it's a mess. It really is a mess right now. MLB is pretty committed to keeping a team somewhere there, whether it be in St. Pete or in Tampa. MLB is committed. This is like the 15th market. I know they're 29th in revenue to the Marlins, but they should be doing a little bit better than that. They do well on the field. Got to give Sternberg credit for that. He lets those people operate, and they do extremely well considering the finances, considering the payroll, considering all that. But, I mean, they're making a big profit, and they're not getting a deal done with a new stadium. They're playing in a very good minor league facility that was fixed up beautifully by the Yankees. But it is a minor league facility, and we'll see how it plays. A lot of home runs so far.
Yeah.
So that's not great either. It's the same thing with Sacramento. A lot of home runs.
Yeah.
But it's not optimal, and I'm kind of siding with the other MLB owners right now. Maybe time to move on and get somebody else who's really committed to that area and willing to do a deal for a new stadium.
You brought up Sacramento. Let's close with this. The A's left Oakland. They're playing temporarily in Sacramento as they wait for their ballpark in Las Vegas to be built. Any reason to think Las Vegas is not going to happen, or is everything pointing towards the A's eventually landing on the Las Vegas Strip?
Well, they've committed to at least 3 years in Sacramento, so they obviously believe it's going to happen. I mean, there have been so many twists and turns in this, and at different times it looked like they were going to have a new stadium in Oakland, and it didn't work out. Las Vegas, I think, would be great at this point. I'm not opposed to nothing against Las Vegas. It's been a winning place, certainly for the hockey team. The football team is doing fine there. And I have no reason to believe that it won't happen, but boy, it's been quite a soap opera in both venues. You're absolutely right about that, Peter.
John, I can't thank you enough for joining me. It's been such a long time since we spoke, and I can't thank you enough for spending some time with me on the show today.
Sure, anytime, Peter. Good luck. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much. John Heyman from the New York Post and MLB Network. When we come back, we have lots more to go. In fact, Tony Walker, my producer, is already sweating again because he knows that the clock is ticking on the hour, and he knows that it's going to come up to the fact where Peter's going to need some overtime today. So Tony's already, the eyebrows are all soaking wet already. He's nervous. He's wiping the forehead. He knows, as Billy Joel takes us to break, that there's probably going to be a couple minutes of overtime. We come back. We have Stump the Wiz. We have more with Sean Wachter on WrestleMania 41, and we'll get into the Dragons a little bit when we come back right after this. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner.
Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. Peter Schwartz with you as the theme of Roman Reigns welcomes us back to Sports Bash. More with Sean Wachner on WrestleMania 41 coming up in just a minute. And Wiz is here. We're going to play Stump the Wiz. But first, it's the weekly concert and event calendar presented by TicketBash.com. Tonight, comedian Aziz Ansari at Radio City Music Hall. SNL comedian Marcelo Hernandez will be at the Wellmont Theater in New Jersey. He'll be performing on the 18th at the Beacon Theater. Rapper Tigga will be performing at Irving Plaza tonight. And pianist Rick Wakeman will be at the Paramount Theater tonight in Huntington. Friday the 18th, George Lopez performing at the State Theater in New Jersey. Comedian Michael Rappaport to perform at Gramercy Theater on the 19th. And catch the play Oh Mary at the Lyceum Theater all weekend. You can get tickets for these events and more at TicketBash.com. No service fees, and they have the lowest prices around. Our thanks again to John Heyman for joining me in the last segment. Sean, before we get back to WrestleMania 41, and I'm going to budget a few extra minutes at the end, much to Tony's chagrin, we do have this thing on the show called Stump the Wiz. I know you watch the show every week.
Yes.
You're familiar with it, right?
Yes.
Wiz, welcome.
Hello.
I know you've welcomed Sean to the program. You know, you always like when we have company here.
Always.
Absolutely. Are you ready for Stump the Wiz today?
Always.
Okay, we have a WrestleMania-themed Stump the Wiz today. You ready for this, Sean?
Yeah. Well,
I know you'll get the answer to
let's
this.
see what he's
Let's
got.
see what he's got.
I'm not as strong when it comes to wrestling. Out of sports. I'm
Well,
definitely-
you know what? I knew that. It was the theme of the show today, a little bit, aside from John Heyman talking
fine.
baseball with me. So I'm just going to tell you that if you, we're not going to add it to your win-loss record.
No, it's fine. You could if you
We
want.
could? All right, well, that's
I-
fine.
I don't care either
Tony,
way.
I was trying to be nice to him.
I'm fine
and
either
he's
way.
saying he wants to add it.
Okay, so this is
So we're
not an
gonna-
exhibition.
It's not an exhibition.
I'm
This is-
fine either way.
It's not a dark match.
Fair enough.
It's not a dark match.
There you go.
There you go. That's a
Excellent
wrestling term for a match that is performed at a venue before the cameras or after the cameras go on and off.
There are some I've gone to some wrestling events though. I've been to a few
Yeah.
MLW matches. Those are pretty fun.
Okay.
Over in Flushing, I like certain wrestlers, and not just the ones you see like John Cena and whatnot. I've always been I've always thought that
Barry Horowitz.
I've actually always liked. I always thought that Roman Reigns got a lot of flack from people. I actually always liked him. I always
Yeah.
kind of felt a little bad sometimes.
You see, the Raiders gave him a jersey and a whole gift package yesterday
wow.
when
I
he
saw
arrived
that.
in Las Vegas. It was pretty
nice.
cool. Saw it on social media. Here we go. We're going to play Stump the Wiz. What we tell you to do is DM your best sports trivia question, the Sports Bash Media social media challenge. If we pick your question, you will get a big prize. I think we usually give out really good prizes here on the show. And today is no different. Today's contestant is Steven Rothstein from Brooklyn. He is playing for 2 tickets to a mutually agreed upon future WWE event here in the New York, New Jersey area. Now that's a really
nice.
good.
That's a good prize.
That's a good prize, right?
Yes.
So if Raw, I have not looked at the future WWE schedule. I don't know if Raw or SmackDown is coming back. I had a chance to be at Nassau Coliseum in December for Saturday night's main event. So if Steven Rothstein stumps you, we will have discussions with him over a future WWE, WWE event here in the metropolitan area. Sounds good, right?
All right.
Here we go. Tony, do we have 2 minutes on the clock?
We do.
2 minutes on the clock for Wiz, and away we go. Actually,
Not yet.
no, not yet. I didn't give the question.
Right.
I'm off verklempt here with Sean in the studio, too. There's like too many people around me. Here we go. Steven Rothstein from Brooklyn, playing Stump the Wiz, wants to know what two venues have hosted the most WrestleManias? What two venues have hosted the most WrestleManias? Tony has 2 minutes on the clock, and away we go.
Okay, Madison Square Garden has to be one, right?
That is one of them. So very quick to get the first one.
Yes. I want to say Staples Center.
Staples Center's incorrect.
Really? I'm shocked. Or it's Crypto.com.
Now, Los Angeles has hosted at a variety of venues 3 WrestleManias, but it's the venue we're looking for that has hosted the most.
So I'm guessing the Forum, had it?
No.
Interesting. So, I don't think Nassau Coliseum. The only
Got one. Nassau Coliseum hosted 1/3 of WrestleMania 2.
Yeah, but obviously, outside of that, I feel like it's somewhere probably south. Oh yeah, I guess I could say Tampa.
Tampa would be correct in city, but not in venue.
Not in venue.
Actually, Orlando. Sorry, Orlando had 3, but one was in front of no people. But go right
Well,
ahead.
it still counts.
No, but that's not. We're looking for the venue that is tied with Madison Square Garden for hosting the most WrestleManias. How much time do we have left?
We have a minute.
A minute to go.
Wells Fargo?
No, not Wells Fargo Arena.
Oh wow.
Sean, do you know the answer? You can't say it, but do you know it?
I have an idea.
Yeah. Okay.
If not that, I'm thinking major cities. United Center could be an option, maybe.
Well, you're getting closer, but it's not the United Center.
Okay, so I'm guessing where the Bulls used to play. The Bulls and Blackhawks
In
used to play.
Chicago Stadium?
Yeah.
No, that's not correct either.
30 seconds.
30 seconds to go.
I don't know if they'd have it outside. Usually they're like an inside venue, and if it's like a football stadium, it would be those.
Well, in recent years, they've gone to the outdoor football stadiums, but
yeah, like a Lincoln Financial Field. I've
right.
had one.
Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas this year.
Well, that's also enclosed. It's fixed roof.
Right.
10 seconds.
10 seconds to go.
He can get his tickets. Why not?
You give it. He's still. Wow. He's still in the
tapped.
towel with
He
5
tapped.
seconds to go.
I
You
don't know.
tapped out.
He's done.
You got tapped out. Other wrestling term. You tapped out. Wiz, you were so close. You were in the right city. You were in Chicago or the Chicago suburb. The other answer was Allstate Arena, formerly known as the Rosemont Horizon, just outside of Chicago.
Oh,
that building
interesting.
and Madison Square Garden have each hosted 3 WrestleManias.
Allstate Arena's hosted? Interesting.
Yeah, they hosted, well, it used to be called the Rosemont Horizon, and that building has hosted 3 WrestleManias.
Interesting.
Sean, did you know that?
Yes, I did.
You did.
Because I usually I'm thinking of Wintrust also, because that's also
Well, that's another one in the suburb, but that has nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
No.
that's what I'm thinking of, because the Chicago Wolves I think play in Allstate. Is that correct or?
They did. Yes, I don't know if they still do, but they did. Actually, the Chicago Rush played at Allstate. I called some Dragons games.
There we go.
Which is one of my favorite road venues to go. Very quickly, we have to get some This Week in Sports history from you.
Well, and this week in 2021, San Jose Sharks legend Patrick Marleau broke Gordie Howe's record for the most amount of games played in NHL history. Now, whenever someone breaks the moniker of 1,000 games played, there's always a huge hubbub about it. Now, imagine 200 more games played, or 1,500, or 1,700, and imagine having the most amount of games ever played in the NHL. Which he got a huge, I think it was like a big silver hockey stick. I think he got a lot of stuff from it.
Yes.
And obviously, the Sharks retired his number.
It's nice to get some free swag.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think he's deserving of that. But regardless of what happens with that, he's there in San Jose. He's honored by so many people. Now, granted, Gordie still has the most record. Still has the most amount for professional hockey because of his time with the
WHA, with the Hartford Whalers.
Yeah, but, of course, later on, he also spent time in the NHL when the Whalers went there. But, hey, the way I see it, still breaking a record. A record's a record, just like when Ovechkin broke Gretzky's record. I'm not one to put asterisks on people's records when they're broken because I think that just shows, not being able to move on. I think breaking a record is breaking a record no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
And hey,
there you go.
Hey, listen. That's not easy to do.
No, it's not. It's time for the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. We post a new poll question every Tuesday and Thursday on the Sports Bash Media X/Twitter page. How will the John Cena Cody Rhodes match end at WrestleMania 41? There's 4 choices. Cody Rhodes wins clean. Cody Rhodes wins with help. John Cena wins clean. John Cena wins with help. I'll go around the room. I think John Cena gets some assistance, maybe from the final boss.
I concur.
Yep.
I concur.
Yep. Tony, are you following along?
I concur. Yes.
You concur. Good. Tony is he wasn't eating any. Usually during the show is when Tony.
I did. I ate it.
You ate before.
No, I ate it while you guys were doing your thing.
Okay, all right, good.
You had like a
All right,
Hershey
good.
bar.
We always like
I had that too, yes.
And we're hoping that the Embassy Diner brings some food on Tuesday when Andrea Grimes is here.
Would be
That'll
nice.
be on Tuesday. But more on that in a second. Sean, let's get back to WrestleMania. I did want to touch on one more match that we didn't talk about before. That's the Women's Championship match
Ooh, this is very, very fitting for what I'd like to do. If I could just borrow the show for 1 second.
Sure, okay.
I don't normally do this, but
Okay.
it's a friend of
You're
yours.
hijacking the show.
I'm hijacking the show, but it's for a friend of Peter.
Okay.
So, Imogene, how are you, sweetheart?
Sean's daughter watching at home. Very nice to have her at the Islander game the other night.
Thank you much for
I think
having
she
us.
had a very, very good time.
I think that's an understatement.
Understatement, yes. It was wonderful for me and Jared to have you and Imogene at the Islander
Thank
game
you
in the
for
suite
having
the
us.
other day. Let's get one more match in that we're going to talk about for this weekend. At WrestleMania 41, the Women's Championship match between Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton. Charlotte comes back after a lengthy absence. She was injured. She wins the Royal Rumble, gets this match, and now she's in a bit of a war of words with Tiffany Stratton, especially what a lot of people feel was a botched promo segment last week.
I am looking forward to this match just because of that unique wrinkle that you just spoke about. Now, what's very interesting is I've saw Triple H on Tony Hinchcliffe's podcast where he actually admitted that over the past year, as part of this new dynamic of storytelling, that some of the stuff that hasn't even actually panned out onto television, that was all on social media or out on the internet, that was made to look like a shoot, which is a wrestling term for a real happening.
Right.
Actually was something that they put out there just to ruffle some feathers. So now that I've heard that, it makes this match even more interesting because it's like, was this snafu of a promo where some outside things were brought in, such as...
Well, what Charlotte Flair is getting divorced again for the third time. She's trying to catch up to her father's number. Flair. And Tiffany was making mention of that in a promo last week, and then Charlotte, and for those who don't know, Tiffany Stratton is dating Ludwig Kaiser of WWE, so of course Charlotte had to go back at her and say, why is he showing up in my DMs?
Yeah, no, I think, they're... Being that WWE is now owned by their parent company, TKO, which also owns UFC, I liken it almost to them borrowing a page from UFC's book. When Conor McGregor broke his leg fighting Dustin Poirier,
right?
He's laying there with his leg broken, and he just says, "Oh, well, your wife is in my DMs." It's just it's another little wrinkle in storytelling, and it makes me actually, not that I didn't care about the match, but it makes me care more about the match.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that WWE is doing a great job with. And honestly, I think it's something that UFC needs to start doing a little bit more with again.
Yeah.
Make me care about some of the fights that I don't really have much of a vested interest in. Give me a reason. Give me an angle to look at it and go, I want to see that. Here, take my money.
I think it's going to be a great show this weekend, both nights, Saturday and Sunday. Let's transition into something that we share in now every single day, and that's working for the New York Dragons. And we have developed quite a friendship since I hired Chubb. We met at Embassy Diner.
Yes,
a sponsor not only of this show but also of the New York Dragons for this season. And we've struck up this friendship, and it's not even I'm not even stretching the truth. We have become very, very good friends in the few months that we worked together.
I say it to my wife all the time. I said, Peter is one of my closest friends now. We talk by choice. Probably about six or seven times a day.
I think to the point where the wives are getting a little perturbed by this.
Yes.
I think there's no question that Cheryl and Cindy they could probably have some discussions over a glass of wine about this.
They're essentially the assistant GM and the assistant director of operations. A lot of the ideas that Peter and I have had, we should really give credit to our spouses for coming up with them.
And when people at the league say, "Oh, that was a great idea," I'm like, "No, that was my wife. That wasn't me. I'm too stupid to come up with an idea like that." But we do have a great day coming up on Saturday, and it's the second round of tryouts for the Dragons at the U.S. Academy of Soccer in Farmingdale. And we were at the first tryouts. You actually were helping out Coach Filardi doing some of the drills in the first one, and we had about 25 great athletes that were there that night. And I think we're going to have 50 people Saturday morning.
That would not surprise me. Pete, with your relationship with the media here on Long Island and Manhattan, you've gotten us some great coverage, and I think that great coverage is going to lend itself to us having a few more qualified participants come out for these tryouts.
Yeah.
It's a mixed bag when you do a public tryout. There are gentlemen there that belong there and have broken their rear ends, and then, quite frankly, there's a few folks that just came off the couch and they need a little bit of humbling.
Yeah. Well, you think about the scene in the movie Invincible where Dick Vermeil has the open tryouts for the Eagles, and like anybody and everybody is coming down and trying out. These guys have no chance whatsoever. But I would say at the first tryout, 95 to 97% probably of everybody that was there legitimately were football players, I would think.
Yes.
And looking at the advanced list, I know you've seen it too. I don't think there's any slouches on this list that we're going to see on Saturday morning.
No, I'm looking forward to it very much. Like you said, Coach Filardi recognized my 9 years of coaching and my 15 years of playing and said, "Hey, Sean."
And your 15 years of playing?
15 years of playing football. Yep.
I thought you were going to say 15 seconds.
Oh, well, that was about my time with the original Dragons.
The original Dragons, yeah, because you didn't quite make the cut under Waylon Harding.
No, I figured maybe I should try to get cut twice by the same franchise.
Well, you joked about that. You should have done it, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, we're having lots of fun. Actually, we were on a tour of the Coliseum. Me and the coach this morning getting a look at the facilities and stuff, and can't wait till we open our season in Danbury on June 7th and then home opener on June 14th.
Well, we're looking forward to it, and hey, everyone that's listening, here's the textbook thing. Come on down.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you very much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, my friend.
We talked a little wrestling, a little football, whiz, of course, but we want to tell you what else is coming up here on the show this coming Tuesday. April 22nd, latest edition of FOP, Friend of Peter. And I guess, to a certain extent, we could have considered today a little bit of an FOP, right? It was you were.
I kind of like I was a ringer. I had an inside track on it.
All right.
I'd call you an FOP.
You would say he was an FOP today?
I mean, Sean even said that he's one of your closest.
Well, we're going to have to bring, but he wasn't. But here's the thing, and this is not his fault; it's mine. He wasn't with us for the whole hour. Like he was the first that had John Heyman in the middle.
Quasi FOP.
So if you make another guest segment, it would constitute a whole show. So then we can induct you into the FOP Hall of Fame.
There we go.
There we go. But next FOP is this Tuesday, April 22nd, where former WCBS TV anchor and reporter, as another person tries out for the Dragons. The
phone never stops.
I think we're going to hit 60 maybe now.
Nice.
But former WCBS TV anchor and reporter Andrea Grimes is going to join us here on Tuesday. And again, she's been off Channel 2 for a while now. I think this will be her first appearance on some sort of television since she left Channel 2. So we are looking forward to talking a little news and sports and family with Andrea Grimes on Tuesday. Next Thursday, April 24th, the Marty Lions Foundation will have its 5th annual NFL Draft Party at Great South Bay Brewery in Bayshore. Always fun. I'm looking forward to my 5th year of hosting this great event. Marty Lions will be there. A lot of former Jets. You're looking forward
I'm looking
to being
forward
there.
to it as well.
The Dragons are going to have a table there, so we're looking forward to that as well.
It's going to be a great time.
A lot of raffle prizes, great food, drinks, all that stuff. And that's it. That'll do it for this edition of Sports Bash. Thanks to my guests, John Heyman and Sean Wachter. Thanks to Wiz, of course, for Stump the Wiz in This Week in Sports History. Thanks to Tony Walker, everyone here at Governor's Comedy Club. Sports Bash is presented by TicketBash.com and the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund. Sports Bash is sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage and by the Marty Lions Foundation. For our entire crew, I'm Peter Schwartz. Thanks for watching and listening. We're back Tuesday, 1 o'clock with Andrea Grimes. Have a great weekend, everyone.